to Sri Lanka from India got a whole lot more fun and exciting, all because of this cruise line that's right behind me. Hello there, welcome to Inside South Asia with me, Dasuni Athauda. This week's show, we come to you direct from the Hambantota International Port as we await to board India's premier cruise line, Cordelia Cruises. Before we set off on our journey, we want to focus on the main story from the region this week. Weeks after the horrific triple train crash in India, many questions still linger. Who is responsible for the 275 deaths? Was it signal failure or was it an act of sabotage? Regardless, the question has now shifted from new projects to safety in India's rail networks.
It's been called India's deadliest train crash in 2 decades. Was it criminal negligence or sabotage that caused this horrific 3-train accident in Odisha, killing 288 people and injuring over 1,200? In a significant move, the Indian government has brought in India's top investigative body, the Central Bureau of Investigation, to establish if there was any criminal tampering with the point machine or the electronic interlocking system or reconfiguration of signalling at the accident site in Balasore. Investigators have hinted both at deliberate interference and sabotage.
जिस सिचुएशन में ये दुर्घटना हुई है और जो परिस्थितियां हैं
Keeping in mind the situation in which the accident took place, the prevailing circumstances, and whatever administrative information has been received so far, for future inquiry, for future investigation, a recommendation has been made by the Railway Board to hand over this case to the Central Bureau of Investigation.
इस पूरे मामले को CBI के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है.
So what really happened? The Coromandel Express was routed to continue straight on the main line, but the track diverted the train to the loop track. The engine of the Coromandel Express climbed the last coach of the freight train. Some coaches toppled. Most of the load was felt by the Coromandel Express. Then a couple of coaches jumped tracks and fell, hitting coaches of the Howrah Express, which was crossing on the opposite side.
There is also a distant possibility that there was some sort of sabotage. I don't think that it is the case, but one cannot rule out the possibility. I would like to clarify one thing here, that the signalling system interlocking is fail-safe. There is no chance of malfunctioning in that. If there is at all a malfunction in that, then it automatically goes into a safe mode.
According to the Railway Minister, a change in the interlocking system could have led to the incorrect signalling or improper routing that forced the Chennai-based Coromandel Express off the main line. But there was a similar incident that was averted earlier this year due to an alert train driver on the Bangalore-New Delhi Kranti Express. The then Principal Chief Operation Manager of South Western Railway had warned the Indian Railways against the alleged bypassing of the electronic interlocking system. In a report dated 8th of February, the South Western Railway stated that the incident indicated serious flaws in the system and contravened the basic principles of interlocking. The letter further stated that if the driver had not shown presence of mind, then the Sampark Kranti Express would have crashed with a goods train which was coming from the opposite direction. The Southern Railways issued a warning in the report. It said the present incident must be viewed very seriously and immediate corrective actions are required to be taken to rectify the system's faults. India has been modernizing the railways for the last few years, aiming to electrify it 100% by 2024. It is also in the process of installing anti-train collision systems. The government has allocated huge sums of money for modernization of stations, adding high-speed trains called the Vande Bharat trains. The railways is also the lifeline of India, connecting every interior part of rural India to the rest of the country. It is the fourth largest train network in the world and transports 13 million people every day. This year, the government hiked the capital outlay to 2.4 trillion rupees to upgrade tracks, ease congestion and add trains. But with the rapid modernization of the railways, has rail safety become the casualty?
Yet another case of the girl child targeted in Afghanistan. This story is one of poisoning of girl students of grades 1 to 6. Now keep in mind that this is the only age group for women to receive education in Afghanistan, and now that is under threat too. Here's more.
80 girls hospitalized after inhaling toxic fumes at their school. It happened in 2 primary schools, both in Saripur province in northern Afghanistan, over the weekend. All of them are aged between 7 and 12. The schools were seemingly targeted one after the other. A local official says a man entered the classrooms and sprayed a poisonous gas before the girls arrived.
It was at the beginning of the classes and students who went to the classes were poisoned. They were vomiting and had asthma, vertigo and headache.
Provincial authorities say it's the first time primary school girls have been targeted in the country. No arrests have been made. But there are voices that suspect vigilante patriarchal mindsets at work. Have they been given some sort of a free hand to scare away girls coming to school? Welfare of girls and women in Afghanistan takes another beating.
Parents who are really terrified, and they maybe, we don't know, but maybe there are parents who think it's better to keep my child safe at home. So just, it's very sad evolution, seeing how Taliban is trying to make women going backward in place of emancipation of the women. But right now, the dictators, the Islamists like Taliban, they want always to show that we have the power on you. And the moment that they feel themselves confident and powerful, they are going forward with the suppression of the women, because as they believe, the women cannot mean anything.
It's been a hodgepodge of women's education and rights policies since the Taliban snatched power back in August 2021. Girls are allowed to enter school till the 6th grade when primary school ends, but they're barred from any formal secondary school education. University is a firm no-no. For people like Dina Rahimi and her family, schools being out of bounds for girls above 12 has meant life turning topsy-turvy and the future turning uncertain and clouded.
It's very hard, as my brother and I used to go to school together daily, but now he goes alone. I'm forced to see him go to school while we cannot go or study.
The way a mother sees her son and daughter equally, the state should also give equal importance to them.
Many call this poisoning attack on schoolgirls part of a spillover effect from neighboring Iran. A wave of similar attacks in Iran last year, mostly in girls' schools, had sent out shockwaves. There too, the attackers remain largely untraced.
Seeing such a sad happening that in Iran and in Islamic Republic of Iran and Afghanistan is organized by Taliban and by the regime of Iran to just send a signal to the girls, and especially because it's happening and most of the times in the girls' schools, it wants to send a signal that we don't want your children, the girls, we don't want them to go to school.
Global pressure on both Iran and the Taliban in Afghanistan to make corrections continue to go unheard.
Let's now talk to you about this cruise that I am on. Cordelia Cruises aims to revolutionize tourism through cruises in the South Asian region. It exudes travel and luxury and showcases this through its crowned jewel. Here's more. Now titled The Empress houses 796 cabins under 5 separate categories of varying luxuries and facilities. This cruise can now hold up to 2,000 passengers. We are now joined by the President as well as the CEO of Cordelia Cruises, Mr. Jürgen Behlem. Mr. Behlem, how has this historic cruise been for you so far?
Well, thank you first of all for having us. Exceptional. We were looking forward to this moment since last year. Unfortunately, last year through the geopolitical situation, the small crisis in Sri Lanka, it didn't happen. But finally this year, today, we are happy to call Athauda our first port of call of Sri Lanka and taking our beautiful guests from India, making sure that they have a great experience here in this wonderful country, which was exceptional warmth. Our arrival was fantastic.
A cruise is truly a one-of-a-kind experience. For someone who really hasn't had that experience of a cruise and who is interested in visiting Sri Lanka from India, what can they expect?
I love that actually. It's a good question. My short answer would be affordable luxury, waking up every day in a different place without having to check in and check out. I would say taking guests to Sri Lanka to show them the fast, beautiful, exotic destination. And I would say India has a lot of relationships with Sri Lanka itself, especially if you look at it from the cultural side with the Ramayan temples and so forth. The expectation, I think, from our guests is really taking them a little bit further than in their own country. So far we only have cruised in India.
The collaboration marks a milestone in Sri Lanka's efforts to revitalize inbound tourism and capitalize on the island's significant untapped potential as an international hotspot for cruise tourism. Embarking on a Cordelia Cruise journey to Sri Lanka opens up a world of thrilling shore excursions for travelers, with Jaffna, Hambantota and Trincomalee serving as bases. I'm now joined by Mr. Ruan Vaidaratna from Advantis. Mr. Ruan, being the local agent of something as historic and important as a cruise line, what are your thoughts on how was this process from start to finish to make this happen, to be honest?
So we had a lot of challenges at the beginning because a lot of things had to be organized, because this is a unique cruise which is touching 3 ports in Sri Lanka. Namely Hambantota, where we are, then Trincomalee, and then Kankasanture in the northern part. So happy to say that all the stakeholders supported us in putting all these things together, and we're looking forward to the vessel calling all these ports now.
Well, I'm sure you are convinced that your next travel plan to Sri Lanka from India is sure to be memorable if on board the Empress with Cordelia Cruises. Make sure you book in advance and make some fun memories while also bolstering tourism between the two countries. From an online fashion brand in Dubai that is promoting Afghanistan's culture to a fashion show in Karachi that showcased fabrics handcrafted by Afghan tribes living in Pakistan, this next segment brings you the rich fabrics of the region.
Rich, vibrant woven patterns layered under intricate silver jewelry. Afghanistani heritage and tradition are what ring out here in creations of online fashion brand Avize that's based out of Dubai. Meet Marina Khan, who works with Afghan women, many of them living in Pakistani refugee camps after fleeing the 2021 Taliban takeover. Khan's creations reflect a pride in a brilliant cultural heritage. Her mission is to alter increasingly ingrained perspectives of her homeland being only about war and mayhem.
When I sort of started, I didn't know how underrepresented girls were, so I wanted to empower young women because I got so many messages, and through that my purpose and goals changed. You know, it was not only about selling jewelry or making a brand, it was more about changing the perspective about Afghanistan linked to war and giving another light, how beautiful the culture is, traditions are, and sort of the artistic kind of way, but more in sort of an editorial high fashion way. That's what I wanted to show.
Avize, meaning pendant, was created in 2014, initially focusing only on jewelry. Over the past 2 years, Khan has felt a sense of responsibility for her diverse team, many of whom are sole breadwinners in their households.
I wanted women to feel empowered and directly money to go to them, direct sort of contact with them. And finally, this year, I can say after a long journey, I'm finally, I can interact with women. We are making things. You know, there's a group of them. There's a group of 40 women that are part of my group now, and who I feel like sisterhood, and you know, I feel so close to them, and there's something I wanted for such a long time.
Away from Afghan shores, Khan has opened doors to inherent Afghan talent eager to find an outlet. Pakistan's top designers showcase their latest collections at a show in Karachi held in May alongside the International Textile and Leather Exhibition. Sustainable fashion was the focus here, in keeping with the theme of the exhibition, weaving the way to sustainability. Huma Adnan works with a group of women from Afghan tribes living in Pakistan. It was they who turned her ideas into brilliant handcrafted pieces.
My collection put on show today was created by ocean, paper, plastic and fabric waste. This collection is handcrafted by tribal women living in Hunza and women from Afghan tribes living in Pakistan.
Flashback to 2020, not that long ago. A fashion show in Kabul, a celebration of traditional Afghan couture. Go back even further to Afghanistan in pre-Taliban times, the 1960s, 70s and 80s. A huge Western influence, a huge sense of fashion held sway. No suffocating restrictions and moral policing in sight. Recognize this. It's the coat worn by John Lennon at the launch of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club and Band album in London. And it came from Afghanistan. The Afghan coat soon became a rage in hippie culture. It's been a nosedive into a dark abyss for Afghanistan since. Women's rights trampled, a wealth of heritage and tradition lost in a mad din. Somewhere one hopes that rich traditional brilliance will come to the rescue.
Let's now take a look at a few other stories that made news in the region this week.
Look at these visuals. An under-construction 4-lane concrete bridge being built across the river Ganges in the East Indian state of Bihar dramatically collapsed. No casualties were reported. A show cause notice has been issued to the construction company. This is the second time the suspension bridge has collapsed in just over a year. A portion of this bridge plunged into water on the 30th of April last year due to strong wind and rain. Located in Sultanganj in the district of Bhagalpur, the bridge was initially slated to be ready in 2019 but faced multiple delays. Some $21 million of taxpayers' money have already been spent on construction of this bridge.
Another video that went viral. The powerful and influential former Pakistan Army Chief Qamar Javed Bajwa gets a mouthful from an Afghan national during a private visit to Paris. And the expletives continue even after warnings from the army top boss. A media translation says that the man was blaming the Pakistan Army for human rights violations and misconduct and aiding the Taliban in destroying Afghanistan.
This daring Nepal Everest rescue mission captured attention over the past few days. A Malaysian climber narrowly survived after a Nepali Sherpa guide hauled him down from below the summit of Mount Everest in what's being called a very rare high-altitude rescue. The climber, Ravi Chandran Tharumalingam, was on death's door when he was found on the 18th of May by the mountain guide Gilje Sherpa and his Chinese client. Notably, Ravi Chandran thanked his rescue insurance and partner organizations and did not mention Gilje's name. Soon people flooded Ravi Chandran's posts with negative comments and called him out for failing to recognize the Sherpa who carried him solo to Camp 4. Some commenters even accused Ravi Chandran of initially blocking Gilje on Instagram. WION cannot verify these claims. Afterwards, Ravi Chandran finally acknowledged Gilje in a list of Sherpas who pitched in to rescue him. However, Gilje's name was written under his partner organization.
And that's all we have for you on our show this week. Do join us again next week for all the action from the region. I'm Athauda signing off.